Earth had never faced a threat like this before. The once peaceful skies were now filled with the ominous hum of alien warships, dark shapes blotting out the sun as they descended toward the planet. From a distance, Earth looked calm and serene, but beneath that surface, chaos was already brewing. Humanity's defenses were ready, but the overwhelming force they faced seemed insurmountable. Captain Ryan stood on the command bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet, EDF, staring out at the approaching armada of Galactic Dominion warships. His hands gripped the railing in front of him, but there was no sign of fear in his posture. His broad shoulders and strong frame radiated calm determination, and his piercing blue eyes reflected the gravity of the situation. The world depended on him now, and he would not let it fall. Around him, the EDF's crew went about their business with the focused precision of a team preparing for a deadly battle. But something about their energy was different. Amidst the overwhelming fear of the unknown, there was an almost absurd sense of calm, of confidence. The crew exchanged jokes and high-fives, even as the alien fleet's weapons powered up, their ships looming like predators in the sky. Captain Ryan glanced around the room. His team was filled with the best, soldiers, scientists, engineers, men and women who had been through hell and back to prepare for a day like this. Yet none of them appeared afraid. The room was filled with light-hearted banter, an odd sense of camaraderie that seemed misplaced in such a dire situation. Even as the alien ships began to deploy, ready to strike with deadly force, the humans remained focused and, oddly enough, cheerful. Zora, the alien general overseeing the invasion from her flagship, couldn't understand it. From the bridge of her command ship, she watched the humans' preparations in disbelief. Her fleet of warships was far superior to anything Earth could throw at them, and yet these humans acted as if they were preparing for a routine drill, not the end of their world. Zora had seen this before, victims of the Dominion often crumbled at the first sign of defeat. Yet here, she saw none of the fear she expected. Instead, these humans stood tall and smiled as if victory was already theirs. How do they remain so calm? Zora muttered, her voice dripping with contempt. They must be foolish. Weak. Her tactical officer, a sleek, armored alien, turned to her. General, they do not appear to understand the severity of the situation. Their ships are outclassed, their weapons ineffective against our technology. Our first wave will wipe them out quickly. Zora smiled coldly, her sharp teeth glinting in the dim light of the command room. Let's see how long they continue smiling when their cities are reduced to ashes. Prepare for the first strike. We end this quickly. As the first wave of alien ships descended, the Earth Defense Fleet braced for impact. The alien warships fired their weapons, beams of energy lighting up the sky as they tore into Earth's defenses. The ground shook as cities were hit with devastating force, buildings crumbling to dust and ash. The alien assault was swift, ruthless, and precise. It seemed there was no hope for humanity. Yet even as destruction rained down from above, the EDF soldiers continued to stand firm. Captain Ryan watched as his crew maintained their composure. There was no panic in their eyes, no fear. Instead, there was a quiet defiance, a knowing that this was not the end. Ryan clenched his fists, his jaw set with determination. We've trained for this moment, he said, his voice strong and confident. Now, we show them why humanity never gives up. Despite the chaos unfolding around them, Ryan's team continued to exchange laughs and jokes, almost as if they were in a casual training session rather than a fight for survival. One of the younger soldiers, Lieutenant Harris, joked about how much she hated the taste of their ration packs, which caused a few others to chuckle. At least we can die with a full stomach, she quipped, earning a laugh from the rest of the crew. Even in the face of annihilation, these soldiers found reasons to smile. Back on Zora's flagship, the alien general's frustration grew. She watched as her forces systematically destroyed Earth's cities, but the humans didn't flinch. They didn't scream. They didn't cry out in fear. They simply kept fighting, even as they were outgunned and outnumbered. Are they all insane? Zora demanded. Why do they continue to resist with such joy? Her tactical officer answered with a low hiss. It is not joy, General. It is something else. Something we do not understand. They seem to have no fear, no hesitation. It is as though they believe they cannot lose. Zora stared down at the battlefield, her mind struggling to comprehend the strange behavior of the humans. She had fought countless wars, watched as countless civilizations cowered before the Dominion's might, but this was different. These humans were not afraid. They fought with a strange resilience, as if they were already certain of victory. Back on Earth, Captain Ryan stood in front of a large holographic display, watching as the alien warships continued to fire. He turned to his crew, his voice steady and calm. Everyone, keep it together. We've got this, he said, his eyes scanning the faces of his soldiers. Despite the chaos, they smiled back at him. There was no fear in their eyes, no hesitation in their movements. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. As the first wave of attacks continued, Ryan gave a simple nod to his tactical officer, who activated the EDF's cloaking devices. The human ships began to shimmer and fade, disappearing from the alien radar. The crew remained hidden, silent and poised, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. Zora's tactical officer frowned as he scanned the battlefield. General, their ships have vanished. The humans are using some form of cloaking technology. Zora cursed under her breath. It doesn't matter. Their resistance will crumble. Proceed with the second wave. But even as she issued the orders, Zora could not shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong. These humans, they were unlike any enemy she had faced before. They should have been cowering in fear, begging for mercy. Instead, they fought on, with unshakable resolve and a strange, almost maddening, sense of optimism. The next few minutes felt like an eternity. As Zora's forces continued to bombard Earth cities and military bases, Captain Ryan's forces prepared for their counterattack. The Earth defense fleet was still heavily outnumbered, but they were not going to give up without a fight. Ryan's voice echoed over the comms, giving orders and rallying his troops. The human ships reappeared, cloaking devices flickering off as they entered the fray. Captain Ryan glanced at his crew, his lips curling into a confident smile. Now, let's show them what humanity is made of. And with that, Earth's last stand began, but amidst the chaos and devastation, one thing was clear: no matter what happened, the humans would not be cowed. They would smile, they would laugh, and they would fight until the very end. As Zora's ships unleashed their devastating barrage, Captain Ryan and his team continued to smile, their spirits unbroken. The mystery of why they smiled would have to wait for later, because right now, Earth's forces were determined to make a stand. No matter the odds, they would never surrender. And Zora would soon learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their weapons, or their tactics, or even their technology. It was in their unshakable will to survive. The aliens were about to learn a very painful lesson. The roar of energy blasts filled the air, the thunderous echoes of destruction as alien warships continued their merciless assault on Earth's surface. Cities crumbled beneath the alien bombardment, but amidst the chaos, one thing stood out: the humans. While the entire world seemed to be on the brink of collapse, there was something defiant in the way the Earth Defense Fleet, EDF, soldiers carried themselves. They smiled. They laughed. Even in the face of almost certain destruction, their spirits were unbroken. Captain Ryan stood in the heart of it all, watching his soldiers as they prepared to strike back. His broad shoulders were set with resolve, his eyes filled with determination, yet there was a faint smile tugging at his lips. It wasn't a smile of arrogance, nor one born of fearlessness. It was the smile of a soldier who had been through countless trials, a soldier who knew that even in the darkest of times, humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or its tactics. It was in its resilience, its ability to keep fighting and smiling even when the odds were stacked against them. Ryan's thoughts drifted back to his past, to the training that had shaped him into the man he was today. He had been just a boy when he first joined the military, wide-eyed and full of idealism. But over the years, as he climbed through the ranks, he learned a crucial lesson: humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its advanced technology or its weapons of mass destruction. It was its heart, its ability to stand up, laugh in the face of danger, and never give up. Flashback, training days. Ryan was in a small, dimly lit room, surrounded by his fellow recruits. They were in the middle of an intense training simulation, preparing for their first battle. Sweat trickled down Ryan's face as he crouched behind a barrier, his pulse racing. He could hear the simulated explosions, the shouts of his comrades, the screech of alien weapons in the distance. Everything in the simulation felt real, and the stakes felt high. A voice echoed through the comms, one of his trainers, Sergeant Hale, speaking in a calm yet firm tone. "Listen up, Ryan. The universe is a harsh place. You're about to face enemies who have technology you can't even begin to understand. But there's one thing they can't ever take away from you: your spirit. Never lose that. It's the one thing that'll keep you alive and everything else falls apart." Ryan nodded, trying to absorb every word. Sergeant Hale continued, "When the battle gets tough, when the enemy is bearing down on you, do one thing. Smile. Laugh. Make your enemy wonder why they can't break you. You'll be amazed at the power it gives you." Ryan had thought the sergeant was crazy at the time. How could a smile help in the heat of battle? But as the simulation raged on, Ryan found himself doing exactly what his trainer had suggested. When an alien drone came within inches of his position, he grinned, feeling a surge of confidence. When a blast nearly knocked him off his feet, he chuckled, finding strength in the absurdity of it all. And to his surprise, it worked. His focus sharpened, his energy increased, and his sense of control grew stronger. He was no longer just reacting to the battle, he was in control of it. From that day on, Ryan understood. The power of humanity didn't lie in its advanced technology, but in its ability to remain unshaken, to smile and laugh even in the darkest times. It was a power the aliens couldn't fathom. And it would be their undoing. Present day, the battle intensifies. Back in the present, Captain Ryan's hands gripped the controls of the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship as the battle raged on. The alien warships were relentless, their weapons tearing apart Earth's defenses. Yet Ryan and his team remained calm. They had faced countless obstacles in their training, and now, in the heat of battle, they were doing what they had always done, fighting with everything they had. Even as the EDF ships fired their weapons and dodged enemy fire, the human soldiers maintained their sense of humor. In the midst of a barrage of enemy fire, Lieutenant Harris made a snarky comment about the aliens' aim. Maybe they should have invested in better targeting systems. This is getting embarrassing. The other soldiers laughed, a momentary respite from the destruction surrounding them. It wasn't just a defense mechanism, it was a lifeline. The laughter, the jokes, the camaraderie, it kept their spirits high. They were underdogs, true, but they were fighting for something greater than themselves. The humans used unconventional tactics to turn the tide in their favor. They deployed cloaking devices, allowing their ships to vanish from the alien radar, appearing and disappearing like ghosts in the night. Small-scale AI robots, designed for sabotage, scurried across the alien warships, disabling their weapons and causing chaos among their ranks. Human soldiers danced in the midst of battle, weaving through gunfire and explosions with the kind of agility that defied belief. Zora, watching from her flagship, couldn't comprehend what she was seeing. The humans were being systematically slaughtered, and yet they still smiled. They were fighting back with every ounce of their being, using the most bizarre tactics, yet nothing she did seemed to break their spirit. It baffled her. She had seen countless civilizations fall, but never like this. Why are they smiling? Zora muttered, her mind spinning. Her fleet was overpowering the Earth Defense Fleet, their ships outclassed in both firepower and technology. But still, the humans fought, not with desperation, but with a strange confidence that made no sense. Zora's confusion deepened as she watched a group of human soldiers cheerfully pilot their ships through the chaos, dodging enemy fire with impossible precision. Even though their ships were severely damaged, their morale remained unbroken. She had expected to see fear, to hear cries of surrender, but instead, she saw humans laughing, mocking her forces as they continued their assault. Zora's frustration reached a boiling point. She paced angrily in her command room, her hands clenched into fists. They are toying with us. They should be quaking in fear, begging for mercy. But they're not. Why? She turned to her tactical officer, a slim, insect-like alien with sharp eyes. Prepare the second wave. Increase the bombardment. We crush them now. The tactical officer nodded, activating a series of commands to launch a barrage of energy blasts at Earth's forces. Zora watched eagerly, believing that this would be the moment when the humans would finally break. But as the blasts hit their targets, Zora noticed something strange. The humans didn't retreat. They didn't falter. They stood their ground, and with each new strike, their resolve seemed to strengthen. Captain Ryan, standing tall at the helm of his flagship, simply grinned as the enemy fire landed, his face illuminated by the explosions around him. Zora's mind raced. How can they be this resilient, she thought. How are they not afraid? How do they smile in the face of death? As the battle raged on, one thing became abundantly clear: the power of humanity's resilience was a force the alien invaders couldn't comprehend. No matter how many ships they destroyed, no matter how many soldiers they killed, the humans fought on, unshaken and resolute. Captain Ryan had taught his soldiers something that Zora would never understand: the true power of humanity was its heart, its unwavering will to survive, and its ability to keep smiling, laughing, and fighting even when the odds seemed impossible. And this, Zora realized too late, would be her greatest mistake. Because no matter how many advanced ships and weapons the aliens had, they could never match the indomitable spirit of humanity. The battle for Earth had reached a pivotal moment. The aliens, led by General Zora, were relentless. Their warships, sleek and advanced, seemed to slice through Earth's defense lines like a hot knife through butter. Cities burned beneath the endless barrage of enemy fire, and Earth's military forces were stretched thin, outmatched by the alien superior firepower and technology. Yet, amid the overwhelming odds, something unexpected was happening. Humanity was not retreating. Instead, it was fighting back, using tactics that defied logic and pushed the limits of what was possible. The humans, led by Captain Ryan, were the underdogs in this battle. Outgunned and outnumbered, they faced a foe whose technology far surpassed their own. Yet, despite the situation growing bleaker with each passing moment, they kept their spirits high. Their smiles were unbroken, their morale unshaken. Even as the alien forces closed in, the humans fought with a combination of boldness and ingenuity that left the invaders baffled. Ryan's eyes scanned the battlefield, a look of determination on his face. His soldiers were doing the impossible. The humans had no chance against the alien warships in a head-to-head confrontation, but they were fighting on their terms, using surprise tactics, unconventional maneuvers, and the element of unpredictability. The alien invaders had expected Earth's forces to crumble under the pressure. They had expected to witness fear, panic, and surrender. Instead, they were witnessing the unthinkable, a people fighting for their lives with an undying spirit that the aliens could not break. The humans utilized every advantage they could. Their cloaking devices allowed them to slip past the aliens' radar and launch surprise attacks from unexpected angles. The alien warships were far more advanced, but the humans had a secret weapon, experimental technology that had never been tested in battle. These weapons were crude compared to the alien arsenal, but they were effective in a way the aliens never anticipated. One such weapon was a series of EMP devices, designed to temporarily disable the aliens' shields and disrupt their systems. Ryan watched in awe as his crew activated the EMP devices. The alien warships, once invulnerable to human weapons, flickered and faltered as their systems went offline for precious seconds. In those moments, the Earth fleet launched full-scale assaults, tearing into the alien ships with unrelenting fury. It wasn't the power of their weaponry that won the day, it was the power of their determination. Amidst the chaos, a firefight broke out between Ryan's team and an alien unit. Lasers and plasma bolts flew through the air, and explosions shook the ground beneath their feet. Ryan's trusted comrade, Bonner, had been in the thick of the fighting, leading the charge. He had always been one of the most optimistic members of the crew, someone who could find humor in even the darkest situations. But now, as the smoke cleared and the sounds of battle faded for a brief moment, Ryan found himself kneeling beside Bonner, who had been hit during the firefight. Ryan's hands trembled as he held Bonner's lifeless body in his arms. His best friend was dying, a victim of the very war they had fought so hard to survive. Bonner's face was pale, his breathing labored, but he was still conscious, still clinging to life for just a few more seconds. Ryan's eyes welled with tears, but Bonner, with his last breath, gave him a faint smile. "Keep fighting," for the smile, he whispered before closing his eyes for the final time. Ryan's heart shattered as he looked down at his fallen comrade. Bonner had always been the one who had reminded them to laugh in the face of danger, to find joy even in the darkest moments. The memory of his smile, the last words he had uttered, filled Ryan with a new sense of purpose. Bonner's death wasn't just the loss of a friend, it was a rallying cry. Ryan stood up, his eyes burning with determination. "We keep fighting," he said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling within him. "We fight for Bonner. We fight for the smile." The other soldiers, hearing Ryan's words, felt a renewed sense of purpose. The death of their comrade had struck a deep chord within them, and it only fueled their resolve to continue the fight. They would not let Bonner's death be in vain. They would not let Earth fall to these invaders. The battle surged forward, but now, something had shifted. The EDF soldiers fought with the strength of 100 men, the loss of Bonner giving them an unshakable resolve. They fought not just for survival, but for the memory of those they had lost and those they would lose. They fought for each other, for Earth, and for the joy of living in a world that was still theirs to protect. Zora, observing the humans from her flagship, could feel her frustration growing. She had underestimated them, thinking they were just a primitive species with no hope of standing against her advanced forces. But she was wrong. Every time she thought she had them cornered, the humans managed to slip away, using their unpredictable tactics to gain the upper hand. She watched in disbelief as a group of human soldiers took advantage of a brief moment of weakness in her fleet's defenses. They had used a cloaking device to sneak up on a massive warship, and now they were launching a direct assault. The sheer audacity of their actions stunned her. How could they continue to fight when it was clear they were losing? How could they smile in the face of such overwhelming odds? How do they keep doing this? Zora muttered to herself, gripping the command console tightly. The humans were like a disease, impossible to get rid of, always coming back stronger no matter how many times they were pushed down. She ordered another wave of bombardment, hoping to crush them once and for all. But the humans were ready. They responded with an unexpected tactic, using a series of experimental missiles designed to pierce through even the thickest alien armor. The missiles struck Zora's flagship, sending it into a spiraling descent toward Earth's surface. The impact caused a massive shockwave, shaking the battlefield as the alien fleet reeled from the unexpected attack. Zora's eyes widened in horror. This was impossible. How had the humans managed to turn the tide in their favor? As the alien warship exploded in a fiery ball of debris, Ryan's voice rang out over the comms, calm and unyielding. "This is what happens when you underestimate humanity. We fight for each other. We fight for Earth. And we'll fight to the very end." The EDF soldiers, emboldened by the unexpected victory, pushed forward with renewed vigor. Every strike, every maneuver, was a testament to their unshakable spirit. Even as more of their comrades fell, they fought on, their smiles and laughter louder than ever. The humans were the underdogs. They didn't have the advanced weaponry of their alien invaders, nor the superior technology. But they had something the aliens couldn't defeat: heart. And with that heart, they fought, and they smiled, and they refused to back down. The tide of battle had shifted, and the invaders were beginning to realize that no matter how advanced their technology, it could never defeat the power of human resilience. The battle was nearing its climax. Captain Ryan and his team had fought through the chaos of war with a single, unshakable resolve: to survive, to protect Earth, and to never back down. Yet, as the final moments of the conflict loomed closer, the true test of their resilience was about to unfold. The fate of the planet rested on their shoulders, but the enemy, General Zora and her seemingly unbeatable fleet, was not about to give up easily. As the dust of the battlefield settled, Ryan found himself locked in a tense standoff with Zora, the ruthless alien general who had been orchestrating the attack on Earth. Her forces had already suffered significant losses, but her confidence had not wavered. From her flagship, she watched as the humans, despite everything, continued to push back with relentless determination. Zora had never been one to understand emotions. To her, the fight was all about strategy, logic, and cold calculation. The idea that a species could fight with such unwavering hope, in the face of certain defeat, was something she found baffling. It was this very question that had gnawed at her throughout the battle: why were the humans not breaking? Why were they still smiling? Now, standing at the heart of the battlefield, Zora decided it was time to put an end to this. She would confront Ryan personally, face to face. She knew that if she could defeat him, the remaining human forces would crumble. The final victory would be hers, and Earth would fall. With a cold, calculating look in her eyes, Zora ordered her flagship to descend toward the battlefield, its massive hull looming over the human forces below. As the ship hovered just above the ground, she set her sights on Ryan, who stood defiantly at the head of his troops, ready for whatever came next. The two leaders faced each other across the battlefield, their eyes locked in a silent standoff. Zora's mind was sharp, her every move precise, while Ryan's stance radiated a wild, passionate energy. There was no hesitation in his eyes; he was ready to fight to the death if it meant protecting his people. "You are outmatched," Zora called down to him, her voice booming through the comms. "You are outnumbered. You are doomed. Why do you fight? You cannot win. Earth will fall." Ryan stood tall, his eyes never leaving hers. His lips curled into a slight grin. "We fight because we believe in each other," he said, his voice steady and full of conviction. "We fight because we know, no matter the odds, we will stand and smile together. You can destroy our cities, you can kill our soldiers, but you will never break our spirit." Zora's eyes narrowed in disbelief. She had heard the words of defiance from the humans, but hearing them from Ryan, the symbol of their resistance, struck her in a way she hadn't expected. He didn't care about victory, at least not in the way she understood it. He fought not for personal gain or to defeat her, but for his people, for something far greater than any tactical advantage. Zora's disbelief quickly turned to anger. She had underestimated the humans, but she would not make that mistake again. The battle had dragged on far too long, and now, the time had come to finish it. With a swift motion, she activated the command to launch a devastating assault from her flagship, unleashing a hail of plasma fire aimed directly at Ryan and his forces. But Ryan, as always, was ready. His movements were unpredictable, guided by his deep understanding of his team and his connection to them. His soldiers, though weary, fought with an unmatched fervor, blocking the incoming fire with shields and counterattacking with their own weapons. Ryan charged forward, leading the charge with a level of confidence that seemed almost insane in the face of such overwhelming power. As the two forces clashed in a brutal exchange of gunfire, plasma, and explosions, Zora could hardly believe what she was witnessing. Despite the overwhelming odds, the humans were not retreating. They were not broken. They continued to fight with everything they had, their spirits unyielding. Even in the heat of battle, Ryan's team fought with joy in their hearts, their laughter ringing out above the roar of gunfire and explosions. It was the most unusual thing Zora had ever seen. "Why do they smile?" she muttered to herself, watching in disbelief as one of Ryan's soldiers, though heavily wounded, managed to deliver a precise shot that disabled one of her warships. The human soldier, instead of fear or despair, gave a triumphant shout and even laughed, clutching his side but refusing to fall. Zora's mind raced. How could this be? How could these fragile beings stand against her superior forces, and smile in the face of their own destruction? It was then that Zora realized something crucial, something she had failed to see before. The humans had something she and her kind would never have. They had hope. They had the ability to rally together, to draw strength from one another in ways that made them stronger than the sum of their parts. It wasn't about the weapons they carried or the ships they commanded, it was about their spirit, their refusal to give up. Zora had come to Earth to crush this spirit, to remind the humans of their place in the galaxy. But now, it seemed that it was her own fleet that was crumbling. Despite her tactical brilliance, despite her superior technology, she could not understand what made the humans fight the way they did. As the battle reached its crescendo, Ryan and Zora finally found themselves face to face on the battlefield. The human forces had taken advantage of a momentary opening, and Ryan knew that now was the time to end this, once and for all. With a powerful, almost primal roar, Ryan charged toward Zora, his movements swift and unpredictable. Zora reacted with calculated precision, dodging his attacks and striking back with cold, efficient countermeasures. The two were locked in an intense, brutal struggle, each trying to outmaneuver the other. Ryan's fighting style was unlike anything Zora had ever seen. He fought with passion, with heart, with everything he had. Every move he made was driven by the belief that his people deserved to survive, that humanity was worth fighting for. Zora's moves, by contrast, were methodical, cold, and precise. She had been trained to fight like a machine, to win by any means necessary. But no matter how many blows she struck, no matter how many attacks she made, she could not break Ryan's will. The clash between the two was fierce, each one trying to land the final blow. But as the battle dragged on, it became clear that Ryan's heart, and the heart of every soldier under his command, was stronger than Zora's cold, calculating approach. Despite the overwhelming odds, despite the death of countless comrades, Ryan and his team had fought with something no one, not even Zora, could fully comprehend: human resilience. With every punch, every step, every battle, they had proved that no matter how much they were pushed, no matter how much they suffered, they would stand. They would smile. And they would never give up. As the final strike landed, Zora found herself on her knees, defeated. Her flagship was in ruins, her forces scattered. The human spirit had won. Ryan stood over her, his chest heaving with exertion, his face covered in blood and dirt. But as he looked down at the fallen alien general, there was no triumph in his eyes, only the quiet satisfaction of knowing that, in the end, humanity had stood its ground. "We fight," Ryan whispered, "because we believe in each other. And no matter what, we always will." The final moment of truth had arrived. And humanity had won. The battle was in full swing. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, yet despite everything, Captain Ryan and his forces stood tall, ready for the final push. Earth's defenders, outnumbered and outgunned, fought with a spirit that no alien army had anticipated. As the Galactic Dominion's forces closed in, their weapons rained destruction on Earth's last strongholds. Yet, in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. The human soldiers, equipped with cloaking devices and experimental weaponry, moved with precision and agility, striking back at the alien invaders in ways that defied logic. The air was filled with the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and the roar of battle. But above it all, there was something else, a feeling of unity and determination that made the human forces more powerful than any of their advanced technology. This was the moment that would decide the fate of Earth. As Ryan led his forces forward, the aliens, who had once mocked humanity for its fragility, were now the ones who were being pushed back. The once mighty warships of the Galactic Dominion were being torn apart in high-speed combat, their advanced shields failing under the onslaught of human ingenuity. Ships exploded in mid-air, sending debris and fire raining down. Missiles zoomed across the sky, striking targets with pinpoint accuracy. And in close-quarters combat, human soldiers fought with an unyielding fury, using their willpower and strategy to overpower the aliens who had once believed they were invincible. The human soldiers, despite their injuries and exhaustion, never stopped fighting. Even in the most intense moments, they laughed and joked, their spirits high. It was this unbreakable human resilience that Zora, the alien general, could never understand. She watched from the safety of her flagship, her eyes filled with disbelief as the humans continued to fight, even though defeat seemed inevitable. Zora, who had relied on the overwhelming power of her fleet, could no longer ignore the truth: the humans were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for something much deeper, something that could never be crushed by weapons or technology. It was their spirit, their unity, and their belief in each other that made them unstoppable. And as she watched, her once confident demeanor began to falter. The final moments of the battle were approaching. The remaining alien warships, battered and broken, were trying desperately to hold their ground. Zora knew it was only a matter of time before the last of her forces were wiped out. Her fleet, once the pinnacle of technological power, was now crumbling under the relentless pressure of the human counterattack. The odds had been stacked against them, but humanity had proven that the will to fight and the belief in each other was stronger than any weapon. Ryan's forces, pushing forward with an intensity that shocked the aliens, were now targeting the heart of the Dominion's military infrastructure. Orbital bombardments rained down on key alien shipyards, sending shockwaves through the ranks of Zora's forces. One by one, the alien ships began to explode, their once impressive hulls torn apart by the sheer force of the human attack. In the midst of the chaos, Zora realized she had lost. Her flagship, the symbol of the Dominion's power, was now surrounded by the wreckage of her fleet. She looked down at the battlefield below, her eyes scanning the humans who had defied her every expectation. The humans, though battered and bloodied, still fought with everything they had. They were not retreating, they were advancing, their faces filled with determination and even, astonishingly, smiles. Zora's mind raced. She had come to Earth to crush the humans, to show them their place in the galaxy. She had believed that their spirit could be broken, that their will to fight could be extinguished. But now, she saw that the opposite had happened. The more she pushed, the more the humans fought back. Their spirit, their belief in each other, had cost her dearly. With a heavy heart and a reluctant respect for her enemies, Zora gave the order to retreat. She knew that continuing the battle was futile. The humans had proven their strength. And as her flagship turned away from the battlefield, she could not help but acknowledge, with a mixture of bitterness and admiration, that the human spirit could not be crushed. As the alien forces retreated, the humans stood victorious. Amidst the wreckage of the battlefield, Ryan and his team took a moment to breathe. They had lost comrades, they had endured unimaginable hardships, but they had won. Earth had been saved. Ryan stood tall, his eyes scanning the field. He could see his soldiers, bloodied but proud, gathering together, their faces marked with both exhaustion and triumph. The battle had been long and brutal, but in the end, they had held their ground. The cheers of victory rose up around him, and for a moment, he allowed himself a small, victorious smile. He had led his team through the toughest battle of their lives, and now, they were standing on the other side, stronger than ever. The humans had proven that no matter how advanced the enemy, no matter how dire the situation, the human spirit could never be defeated. Ryan turned to his comrades, his team who had fought beside him every step of the way. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with pride. "We showed them what it means to fight for something greater than ourselves." The soldiers, battered and bruised, nodded in agreement. They had fought not just for survival, but for each other. They had proven that no matter the odds, no matter the challenges, humanity would always stand together. And that, more than any weapon or piece of technology, was the true strength of the human race. In the aftermath of the battle, as Earth began to rebuild, the story of this victory would become a symbol of human resilience. The defeat of the Galactic Dominion would echo through the stars as a reminder that no matter how advanced an enemy might be, no matter how overwhelming the odds, the human spirit could never be crushed. And as Ryan looked up at the sky, the wreckage of the alien fleet now scattered across the battlefield, he couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. The human race had fought not just for survival, but for a future. And in the end, they had proven that there was nothing in the universe stronger than the human will to live, to fight, and to smile, no matter what. The fall of the Galactic Dominion was not just a victory of military might, it was a victory of spirit, of unity, and of the belief that together, humans could accomplish anything. And as the last remnants of the alien fleet disappeared into the stars, the humans stood victorious, ready to face whatever came next. The battle was over. And humanity had won. The battle had been long, intense, and brutal, but now, as the dust began to settle, the humans emerged victorious. Earth, once on the verge of annihilation, was saved, not by superior weapons, not by advanced technology, but by the strength of the human spirit. The Galactic Dominion's once powerful fleet had been shattered. Zora, the alien general who had underestimated the humans, now found herself a prisoner of war, her pride broken along with her forces. Zora, confined in a holding cell aboard a captured human vessel, sat in silence, her mind racing. She had witnessed the impossible. The humans, with their crude, unrefined methods, had defied every expectation and overcome an adversary far more advanced than them. At first, she had thought the humans were just another primitive race, doomed to fall before the might of the Galactic Dominion. But now, as she reflected on her defeat, Zora understood that it wasn't their technology or military might that had defeated her, it was something much deeper, something far more powerful. The strength of humanity lay in their hearts, their unyielding will to survive, and their ability to smile in the face of death. Despite being outnumbered, despite facing weapons and technology far beyond their own, the humans had fought with a courage that was unmatched. They had laughed and joked in the midst of battle, proving that their greatest weapon wasn't their ships or guns, it was their spirit. Zora had never encountered anything like it in her entire career. It was a force she couldn't understand, and one she had underestimated to her detriment. Meanwhile, on Earth, the humans celebrated their hard-earned victory. The streets were filled with cheers, and families embraced, knowing their loved ones had survived. The human race had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger for it. Ryan, the captain who had led his forces with unwavering determination, walked through the battlefield, his eyes scanning the wreckage of the once mighty alien fleet. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and the sounds of celebration, but Ryan remained focused. He had led his team through the darkest hours, and now, as the victory was won, it was time to reflect and rebuild. Ryan was met by his soldiers, their faces tired but filled with pride. They were covered in dirt, sweat, and the marks of battle, but there was a light in their eyes, something that had never dimmed, even in the hardest of times. As they gathered around their leader, they shared stories of fallen comrades, each tale filled with laughter and sorrow. They spoke of the ones they had lost, of the sacrifices that had been made, but also of the strength they had found in one another. In the darkest moments, when everything seemed lost, it had been their unity that had kept them going. They fought for each other, and that made them unstoppable. Ryan smiled as he listened to the stories, his heart heavy with the loss of friends, but also filled with pride for the incredible resilience of his people. He had seen them at their lowest, but he had also seen their greatest strength, how they had stood together and refused to give up, no matter the cost. They had smiled in the face of overwhelming odds, and that had made all the difference. As the sun began to set, casting a golden light over the battlefield, Ryan turned to his soldiers. The atmosphere was one of quiet triumph, a moment of peace after the storm. The sound of distant celebrations echoed in the background, but here, in the midst of the ruins, there was something more, something that transcended victory. It was a sense of connection, of knowing that they had all been part of something greater than themselves. "We survived," Ryan said, his voice strong but filled with a deep sense of gratitude. He looked at his soldiers, his friends, the men and women who had fought by his side every step of the way. "And we'll smile as we rebuild." The soldiers, some of whom were still catching their breath from the intensity of the battle, nodded in agreement. They knew what Ryan meant. They had survived, and now, they would rebuild, not just their homes, but their world. They had fought for their planet, for their future, and for each other. And now, they would face the challenge of rebuilding Earth, stronger and more united than ever before. As Ryan's words echoed through the air, the camera pulled back to reveal the peaceful sky above. The once dominant fleet of the Galactic Dominion lay in ruins, scattered across the battlefield, a testament to humanity's victory. The sun, rising on a new day, bathed the Earth in its light, signaling the beginning of a new chapter for the human race. The victory, though hard-won, had proven something undeniable: no matter how advanced the enemy, no matter how overwhelming the odds, the human spirit could never be crushed. Humanity's greatest strength was not in its technology or its military might, it was in the hearts of its people, in their ability to stand together, to smile in the face of danger, and to never give up. The camera continued to pull back, showing the Earth in its peaceful state, the blue sky unmarred by the destruction that had once threatened it. It was a symbol of hope, of perseverance, and of the unbreakable will of the human race. The battle had been long, and many had fallen, but humanity had proven that it could overcome anything, no matter how impossible it seemed. As the screen faded to black, the final words of the story lingered in the air, a reminder to all who had watched and to all who would come after. "We survived. And we'll smile as we rebuild." The story of humanity's victory over the Galactic Dominion would go down in history as a testament to the resilience and determination of the human spirit. It would be remembered not just for the battles fought or the technology used, but for the strength of heart that had carried humanity through the darkest days. And as Ryan and his soldiers looked toward the future, they knew one thing for certain: no matter what came next, they would face it together, with a smile.